Good evening and welcome to a playoff special on the road to Ashton Gate in our live show tonight. We're joined by the newly crowned Magpie Circle Pundit of the Year, Mark Stallard. Evening, Mark.
Evening, Paul. You all right?
It's the first thing you've won for donkeys, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I'll take anything, yeah. So, especially with waffling on about football, so I'd absolutely take that. Yeah, chuffed with that, yeah.
Yeah. Also, John, I don't think we've had the two of you on together before, actually. Normally, you alternate a bit between Mondays and Wednesdays. Leigh, good to have you on board again.
Yeah, lovely to be back. Thank you very much.
Yeah, commiserations. I know you were down at Lincoln, weren't you, for the playoff final? Didn't quite go according to plan for Michael Appleton and the Imps. Disappointed?
No. Yeah, I mean, it was... listen, I think my... playoff legacy has been well documented, but the journalist I went with, Mark Wiley, I think we totaled it up in numbers, and I think between us we've covered 19 playoffs, either watching them as fans or as covering them as journalists, and we've won one. So 19, won one. And the one that Mark was successful in, or the club that he was covering at the time, he won it. He wasn't even at the game, so it just goes to show you.
Can we ban Leigh from Saturday then?
Well, I was going to.
But in fairness, I didn't go to the playoffs when Danny Cowley. The year when Lincoln and Exeter were in it, and it was just in Coventry, wasn't it? And then obviously Coventry played Exeter in the final. I mean, I didn't go to that one, and Lincoln didn't do particularly well on that occasion either. I mean, that's 7 now in a row that they've been in and just got nowhere near. Whereas Blackpool, I think their record is unbelievable. It's like 11 playoff victories, just ridiculous. But it was a decent atmosphere considering there was only 10,000 fans in there. I thought Lincoln gave it a real good go in the early sort of 15 minutes, but I think in the end, Blackpool just had a little bit too much know-how for them, I think.
Yeah, great guy, Michael Appleton, by the way. I spoke to him twice when I was a director, and trying to get him to come to Notts. And you can't
sliding doors moment.
Well, absolutely. But he's a top guy, and I always knew he would do well. Because I think you've got to say a lot of that success this past 12 months is down to him.
Yeah, they've recruited really well. I mean, they got. I mean, again, we've spoken a lot about recruitment on this show before, but what they've done is they've actually gone out and got players of I'd say with international honours underneath their belt. Young England internationals, Morgan Rogers, the young kid they've got from Spurs. Really good Premier League signings, and I think obviously Michael knows that. The academy is really well, doesn't he? So he's been able to sort of pull on some incredible talent. Rogers looks a real good player. He's filled out a lot. And Brennan Johnson, of course, who came across from Forest, he was brilliant on Sunday. Sorry.
Like you say, sliding doors. And from when you think we were playing Lincoln not that long ago, look where they are now. Look where we are now. That's how quickly football changed. And hopefully we can start to redress the balance over this period of playoffs, which we will now turn our attention to. But congratulations to Notts County ladies. They have won promotion further up the pyramid. So congratulations to Adam Dunleavy and all the players there for that promotion. Well done. 4 o'clock on Saturday, not 3. All the tickets have sold out today. I'd also like to say well done to Notts and all the people that work in the ticket office. And some of our, shall we say, Notts County social media pond life, which does exist. It makes me smile when all these people talk about their entire life is Notts County. They never miss a match, blah, 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 blah. And they're moaning because they were on the phone trying to ring up to buy a ticket today on general sale. After season tickets for 2 days, after official supporters association and Lifeline, always makes me smile a little bit. And also get to use the, online as well, because it took me about 5 minutes on Sunday morning to get the tickets. Notts invested quite a lot of money in Ticketmaster a couple of years ago, which is very much the blue ribboned system of ticketing. It's very, very good. It's very, very good. So anyway,
can I just interrupt? Just because while we're talking about playoffs and failures and things, so let me just get this right. Notts County Academy's team won the title. Notts County's women's team has won promotion. Comes in threes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I didn't pick that one up.
You see, always thinking.
Yeah. And Wayne Wilkins, one of our biggest fans and attendees, who lives in Barcelona, he never he'll be watching Aguero next year, won't he? Has sent me a video of 5 Catalan magpies out the back of his garden. So he's viewing that as a good luck sign. Mark Reap, everyone got their tickets. We have Leigh Brearley, we will win. Alex 56, you pies, he's got a ticket. Cole Fairbrother, come on, Notts, we are missing you from a Stags fan. Smash those Chesterfield lads. Okay, let's get down to it. Saturday, Chesterfield Stell, local derby. I think we've both won 4 of the last 5 games. Chesterfield got it together in that because they'd had a little bit of a blip, didn't they? I saw they lost to Hartlepool and Torquay. They finished very well. What are you expecting Saturday?
Well, tough game, obviously, and you're right. I mean, I've got my bits down here, and both clubs 4 wins and a draw out the last 6. 1 defeat, obviously. Chesterfield scored 12, conceded 6. Notts scored 14, conceded 4. So just a slight edge, if anything, for Notts in terms of form. But it's nip and tuck. The league table tells you that. 42 games, 1 point in it, but come the end of the season, we beat them there with an unbelievable late show when we scored 2 in injury time. They beat us at our place in a very forgettable game. So, but this is the thing I always say with the playoffs. All that doesn't count for a great deal come, 4 o'clock as it is on Saturday, because it's all about the occasion. We haven't played them this season with 4,000 fans in. Given the occasion, we were talking about how important playing at home would be, and playing at Meadow Lane with 4,000 fans in, I think he's going to be the difference maker. After Bromley, which was a decent first half but didn't get the job done, and then disappointing second. They need to bounce back, and I think with 4,000 fans there cheering them on as they were the other week, I think that will make the difference. That will carry us home, and I'm quietly confident as you can ever be in a playoff one-off scenario. I think we'll have too much for Chesterfield.
2 young managers. They've both had differing levels of experience. Ian Burchnall out in Scandinavia, James Rowe at Gloucester, so both coming into the National League for the first time this season. How do you view that matchup, Leigh?
I think it's a really interesting one because obviously it's a huge game, and I actually think the 2 things that I think that go in Notts' favour. I think the crowd, obviously, think having no away fans there absolutely vital. So Chesterfield know as soon as they walk through the door, they've got to face 4 stands full of Notts fans, and I thought it made a huge difference against Weymouth. And I think if you ask the players, and I have done on a couple of occasions this season, just how much of a bigger difference they actually make. And secondly, I think the players within the squad that Notts have, they've got some players in there who've had big game experience. You've got the likes of your Doyles, your O'Briens, your Ben Turners, even though he's not playing, be crucial on the day. Your Mark Ellis has been involved in promotion fights before. And I think those players will give Notts a slight advantage when you compare it to Chesterfield and the lack of perhaps the big game players in there. How many players have they got have been involved in this situation before where everything's riding on one game? Have they got it? We saw what happened to Barnet here last year. I mean, obviously it didn't work out for Notts in the playoff final against Harrogate. But local derby, I think those players will be absolutely key. But in terms of the managerial matchup, I'm fascinated to see how it all both unfolds because have they ever been involved in games as big as this as well, particularly as it's a derby as well. So everything riding on one fixture. I'm really looking forward to it. But I agree with Star. I'm quietly confident that Notts will get the job done.
One thing I've noticed about James Rowe so far, Stel, they lost to Sante, didn't he? He was clearly a key player for him. Leigh can probably update us on where we are with James Rowe, who had to come off on Saturday for Chesterfield. What Chesterfield have kind of done is found a way to get over the finishing line into the playoffs, isn't it? They had to win at Halifax, and they got and they came from behind to win. I think the previous week they scored something like a 95th minute winner. They're just getting over the line to get to the next stage at the minute, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, Chesterfield were probably the unknown one. We were all expecting, I think, to be paired against Wrexham when we go back a couple of weeks with the games that were remaining. I think none of us saw Wrexham missing out, with the fixtures that were remaining. But this is football. This is, why it is so difficult to predict. But yeah, Chesterfield have got over the line. Like I say, it's like managers will tell you all throughout the season. It doesn't matter what the league table looks like in August, November, January. It's all about at the end of the season, and that's exactly what James Rowe for Chesterfield will be saying. They looked on the outside in for a lot of it, and would have been sort of an outside bet. Bromley as well. On that last game of the season, but they're in there, and it is a massive level of the playoffs. Let me tell you, it doesn't really matter where you finish. It's then all about performing for 90 minutes. For Notts' perspective, or any of these in the preliminary round on Saturday, 3 times. You've got to perform 3 times. We saw it last season, didn't we? We performed against Barnet. Get to Wembley against Harrogate, didn't turn up. And just another player to add to Leigh's list of key players for Notts. Don't forget Conor Rawlinson as well, who got left out at Wembley last year, who was Player of the Year, and he is going to be absolutely driven to make sure that Notts get there and he gets there again this season. So look, there's no givens in the playoffs. Anything can happen, but I think you've got a good mix of hunger, experience, and quality, and I think that's what we'll tell for Notts on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting one. You sort of led me on to it, and we'll discuss this now. So Conor Rawlinson, Player of the Year, didn't play a single minute in Notts' playoff campaign. Dion Kelly-Evans, who won our own fans Player of the Year, was omitted after several long games winning for Notts. He made way to kind of combat Bromley's specific threat. I think it's a massive call for the gaffer, Leigh, on Saturday. Do you stick with the same team that didn't win at Bromley, or do you go back and bring in? We'll come to you in a minute, Stel. Do you bring back a Dion Kelly-Evans, whose return coincided with Notts' run of form? Because if you remember, he was out of the team when Ian first came in, with Enzio playing the right wing-back role.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you pay the managers the big bucks for. I'm glad I don't have to pick the team. I think Richard Burnley was really good in the centre-half role. I can't remember which game it was. The one we played prior to Bromley. Who did we play before Bromley?
Weymouth at home.
Yes, yeah, he was very good in that game. Bringing the ball out of defence. Because what I have noticed with this system that Ian's employed is very much similar to the likes of how Hartlepool played up at their place. The likes of Chickson and Brindley, or even Rawlinson. In fact, when he plays, those centre backs have a bit more onus on them to sort of push further up the pitch. They step in a bit like Hartlepool's centre backs did. So it's a really difficult one. I expect Rawlinson to play. I expect Mark Ellis to play. I think experience be there in that position is absolutely vital. I think Chickson will obviously play. It's a tough one because I think Richard's got the experience of being involved in these big games. He played for Rotherham in the League One player final when they got to the Championship with Rob Milsom and Michael O'Connor, of course, who used to play for Notts. So it's really interesting one. Does he go for experience, or does he go for that sort of tigerish nature that Dion Kelly-Evans has? And he's a brilliant player. I mean, Notts are absolutely blessed in that right back position because both really, really good players. So I'm fascinated to see how it unfolds. I'm intrigued to know what Styles would do.
Thanks for that. Yeah, it's a tough
You're
one.
pundit of the year, mate. This is your bag.
Is that the sort of responsibility it brings? I'm not sure I'm ready for it. Mate, like I say, it's Gareth Southgate's got a similar one, hasn't he, for the Euros about all the right backs, but not bringing
Everyone's got a multitude of right backs, haven't they? Everyone.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it is a tough call, and look, whoever you go with isn't going to let you down. You know you've got good players, and that's why it makes it a tough call. Crikey me. I mean, I think it's one of them for Dion Kelly-Evans. I think everyone loves him, don't they? He's got that absolute attitude. If you could transplant it into every player, then you'd not go far wrong. But I think so fans absolutely love him, and you love to watch players like that. From a manager's perspective, what will go against Dion Kelly-Evans is his height. And you know as well, he doesn't lose many in the air. He'll give as good as he gets. But I just think when it comes down to tough calls like that, between you've got Dion Kelly-Evans and Richard Brindley, both who are decent players, both there's a gnat's what's it between the two of them. Managers, more often than not, will default to, right, I'm not going to play the small lad because the opposition might just play on him aerially. And that's not the case that we've seen it happen too much. But that is my experience of football in general. I'm sure you two watching it as well. Things like that do happen. They when you've got an absolute 50-50 call, things like that could be the things that just tip the balance in one or other's favour. So, look, it's a nightmare. It is it's a really tough call. So I think I've answered it without actually telling you which one I pick.
Excellently sidestepped.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Like how you used to sidestep defenders in your pomp.
Mate, I can sidestep better verbally than I can physically, believe me. Yeah, it is a massively tough call. But what you do know as a manager is that neither of them players are going to let you down. And you could canvas the fans, I'm sure, and it would be 55-45 or just as tight. I'm sure either player would not let you down. And like I say, whichever player plays, I think Notts will be good enough to win the game.
In splitting the fan base, as you sort of alluded to there, Stel, NCFC Pie, either of Brindley or Rawlinson, as long as DKE doesn't miss out because of it. Richard Hawksworth, Brindley better going forward as wing back. Conversely, Mick Dundee, DKE gives us a better attacking option. Richard Hawksworth comes back with Brindley has more quality, in my opinion. Yeah, I think it's a massive call, to be honest with you. I think Dion was very, very unlucky to lose his place. And playing devil's advocate, Stel, when we were playing, we played at Wrexham, and they, not too many teams would launch more long balls than them. I think Dion was starting. I think when we played Bromley and drew 2-2 and really should have won, having got it to 2-1, Dion was starting. And yet, it depends how much you judge on results, doesn't it? It depends. For me, I'm a massive results man, and we've won when he's been playing. He's not played, and we've lost. Now, I'm not saying that's directly down to that one person. I do think he's very, very unlucky to be in a situation where he could be frozen out at the end of the season and going into the playoffs for what we certainly hope isn't the case, but could be our last playoff game. And if we remember back to the playoffs last season, Leigh, just remember the debate that raged when Conor Rawlinson didn't play a minute of those playoffs and was voted player of the season.
Yeah. Just to go on that, Paul, going back to the Wrexham game, like you say, no team's going to launch more balls, but Brindley and Dion Kelly-Evans played. So you could potentially, if you're going to go on that, you could leave Conor Rawlinson out and you've got deja vu from last year's playoffs. It really is a big call. But there's big calls sort of all over the pitch. But I think that's the main one, isn't it? Where you've got really, 2 for 3 places, because Brindley could play that right-hand side centre-half role if Ian Burchnall prefers that and thinks that will be the way to go against Chesterfield. That's not to say he thinks it'll be the same way to go against Torquay and whoever we get in the final. See what I've done there? But it is a massive call, and it's what you like and what you perceive sometimes to be the threat of the opposition that will swing it. So if he thinks Chesterfield are going to launch balls forward, Denton's not been playing, so I don't think he's going to make a recovery for the final game. Danny Rowe, as you say, Leigh might know a little bit more about. But so we'll have to wait and see. But it's what Ian Burchnall perceives as, you know, the best way of going about it. I mentioned when Richard Brindley played as that right side and Adam Chickson as the left side of the centre half three with Mark Ellis in between. That balances them up really well for playing with the ball, for possession football. And then automatically your Dion Kelly-Evans is right back. Kelvin Miller is undroppable at the minute as a left wing back. Yeah. And you've got a lovely balance to the team with that. You know, but if he perceives a bit more of an aerial threat, he could put Conor Rawlinson in as he did against Bromley. You know, pick one of the two, Brindley or Dion Kelly-Evans as right wing back. And you're not going to say it's unbalanced with that either. So it's whatever he perceives as a threat. And also Conor Rawlinson won a fair few headers in the Bromley penalty area at the weekend that, you know, very nearly led to something for a bit better finishing from a Notts perspective. But he won some headers in an attacking sense as well. So he gives you that. So massive call. But I think it will come down to between Brindley and DK.
I think the biggest thing for Notts is that Jake Reeves is fit. I think you know, while we're talking about defenders and who plays where and who replaces who, I think it's absolutely critical that he is fit. Absolutely critical, because he's been in such good form in these last few weeks. He's really made that number 8 position his own. I was a little bit concerned when I saw him come off at half time. I mean, we'll find out more tomorrow, but I'm very hopeful that, you know, everything crossed, that he will be fit, because he's been sensational in these last few weeks. And, you know, he'd taken a fair bit of stick earlier on in the season when everyone said you couldn't play Doyle, O'Brien and Reeves. And in fairness to them, in those three, certainly in the last couple of months or last month and a half, been absolutely terrific. You know, the understanding, much more aggressive. Yeah, top draw.
It would appear that a former Notts player, Nathan Tyson, will certainly be involved in the shake-up, either starting or off the bench, Leigh, on Saturday. James Rowe went off first half. Danny Rowe, sorry, James. Yeah. Have we heard any more coming out of Chesterfield, where they are with that situation?
Someone told me that he's out, but I haven't had that confirmed. But you know, he is if he is out, that's a bonus for Notts, because I saw him. He came to Lincoln when I was covering them, and I can't remember where he came from. It might have been Stockport, somewhere like that. Absolute hammer of a right foot. Anywhere distance, you know, he can absolutely leather a ball. Probably one of the only players I've seen who can hit the ball so hard. Probably the hardest I've seen. He's got absolute hammer of a right foot. Good player. You know, scored goals for fun for File, didn't he? And then he got his move. So I don't know. I suppose we'll find out more tomorrow. But I think Nathan Tyson obviously came off the bench, didn't he, and scored the winner. So, and obviously he didn't perhaps have the best of times at Notts last year, and obviously he was allowed to go early, wasn't he? Because Notts then went and brought Scott Wilson in. So, you know, if he does start, he'll have a point to prove. And even though he's 39, he's still absolutely rapid. So I think it'd be really interesting to see what James Rowe does up front. Particularly as he's Noah Sante, who caused numerous problems in the game at Meadow Lane, and obviously if Rowe's out as well at the weekend. So yeah, I mean, I think for me, I think that the team has got to be, you know, Rodrigues has got to start up front with Wootton. I think that's a no-brainer now. You know, that midfield three picks itself. I think the only position of debate for Notts is the one we've just spoken about, is that right wing back spot. You know, does it go to Brindley or does it go to Dion? I think every other position is pretty much nailed on, I think.
What sort of I mean, Bromley was fairly open, Stel. Do you anticipate, given what's at stake, a very, very tight, cagey type of game? Notts have, under Ian, have gone out early, haven't they, in their games to try and get a stranglehold. because of what's at stake, do you see it being really tight on Saturday?
It could be, but I hope not. And the reason I say that is not just because I want to see an attacking game, but it's because Notts have got these results and put in these improved performance when they've really gone after the game from the outset. I say all the time, at this sort of level, no team is good enough to go, we're just going to shut up shop. Yes, they can make it difficult. Yes, you can get bodies behind the ball and look to hit on the counter-attack. Of course you can. But you would not trust any of these squads at this level and maybe a couple of divisions higher to go, well, we just want to play for a draw and we'll look for a set piece or something. You just can't play like that. The players switch off too much. They don't concentrate. They don't make the right decisions all the time. So if it becomes a cagey game and not a part of that, I think that means they're playing the occasion. They're not doing what they've been doing in the league games prior to it. Even at Bromley, first half, I thought they were excellent first half. Passing the ball, they just weren't clinical enough in that penalty area. But I thought passing the ball possession, it was Menninger's boys in the first half. Now, it seems bizarre. It turned around completely in the second half, wasn't so clever. But if it's cagey, okay, you'd probably have to give credit to Chesterfield if they can make it that way. But if it's cagey, I think that's because Notts haven't set their stall out, haven't got their tempo right from the first 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, they did a bit of a number on us, didn't they, when they came down to Meadow Lane, Leigh, in terms of it kind of ended up being played how Chesterfield would want the game to be played, not us.
Yeah, I mean, Bromley are everything that Notts have not liked facing this year. Big, strong, good at set pieces, got good forward players. I mean, the lad who came on, Harry Forster, I thought he was really good. Again, you know, a bit like Sutton, they've got all the right bits in all the right places. Really tough team to play against. Got good experience in Liam Trotter in the centre of the park. And I think Chesterfield, when they came down here, were very similar, weren't they? Long, bit more direct, didn't really allow Notts to get into the game. And I wonder whether that will be the game plan again, just to try and stifle and frustrate, try and get the crowd a little bit frustrated with by stopping Notts from playing. But the one thing that I have noticed with Ian certainly is, you know, straight from kickoff, you know, there's no messing about. They do go after the jugular. I think my biggest concern, and I thought Ian touched upon it after the game on Saturday, was just when Bromley took the lead, Notts did that thing. They've done it a few times this season. It's almost like they get overcome with this desire that they've got to get back into a game straight away. You know, it happened at Eastleigh away. You know, they fell a goal behind, and then the shape just started to just go a little bit haywire, and passing wasn't quite as crisp, and taking it, you know, hurrying the ball along a bit more quicker when they could have had an extra touch maybe. And it's that. And Ian said after the game, you know, there are going to be stressful moments. You know, it is going to happen. Football is unpredictable. It's vital that you keep your concentration, keep your composure, don't panic. Because again, you know, as we saw against Bromley at the weekend, you know, once they went 1-0 up, you know, the post, the bar, Sam Slocum made a couple of good saves. It just felt a little bit raggedy. And maybe that was a consequence of conceding that first goal. And I think that's going to be absolutely massive on Saturday. I think if Notts can get that first goal with a crowd right behind them, it will tee them up very nicely indeed.
Chris B says the first goal we conceded at home to Bromley was a ball lost at back post by Brindley playing right centre half, which I think made the change on Sat. I expect it to go to previous lineup for Chesterfield. Derek Flowers, I think he's right, Leigh. Just confirm for us. Or probably Stells as his pundit of the year, and he's bound to have got it on one of his pieces of paper in stashed behind his dartboard. No extra time, straight to penalties Saturday. Is that right?
Leigh?
I'm not sure, you know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know, actually. We should know between us, shouldn't we? But
because the League Two player final went to extra time, didn't it?
Yeah,
that's one to Google before Saturday, isn't it?
Absolutely. Derek, either please provide
because of the rule changes, because the FA Trophy went straight to penalties. Well, that should have been under normal circumstances. They would have had extra time, wouldn't they? But they changed it when they were trying to catch up all the fixtures. That it just went straight to penalties. So
it won't be needed. It won't be needed. We'll have won in 90 minutes.
I cannot believe that the assembled professional minds of the Nottingham Post and BBC Radio Nottingham's award-winning pundit of the year, and me as the host for that matter, do not know whether we play extra time or go to penalties. Well, we should try and get that one checked out as quickly as we possibly can. Stells, we lost at Bromley. Subject bleeding obvious. And we were on such a roll. Does the fact that we've lost a little bit of momentum, or that run was ended, is that going to make any difference to Saturday?
It shouldn't do. It shouldn't do. If anything, and I think Sam Slocum in his post-match sort of hinted at this a little bit, is that just like when Notts were poor, that's go back 7-8 games when Notts were struggling, things weren't going well, they looked a bit disjointed, they didn't quite know, didn't have a cohesive unit. Just like it can change for no real reason, and they can go on this upturn of form, they can win the games that they've had, put in the performances that they've had, it can turn the other way. Of course it can. So I'm in a way, and again, with hindsight, we'll know in 3 games' time, but it could be a bit of a blessing in disguise that little reality check, if you like, has come in the second half at Bromley, where they didn't get about the game. They were back to almost how they were 8 games ago. The first half, they were excellent. But the second half, I mentioned Jake Reeves come off, and like I say, he's a big loss with his legs, his industrial nature in the middle of the park, but also he's just keeping the ball, rotating the ball from side to side with Jim O'Brien and Michael Doyle alongside him. So in a way, because we were already safe and it's turned out we've got the home game, in a way, that's the punch on the nose. That's the little wake-up call to all of them who think, oh, well, this is easy. We are on a roll now. It's just going to happen. It ain't just going to happen. And that's the reminder that sport, not just football, any sport brings you back down. The minute you think you've cracked it, it will bring you back down to earth. Now, Notts have hopefully had that on Saturday at Bromley. And that just refocuses them, makes them realise, hey, we've got to go out and do the ugly stuff to allow us to play the pretty stuff. That's what happens in a football match. If you don't do one, the other doesn't follow. So, look, it might be the stuff. If we don't do the business on Saturday, we're going, well, what do you know? You're talking rubbish. But for me, I don't think that's the start of a bad run of form. I think that is just they were excellent first off, and then they just, for whatever reason, got caught cold. Bromley up their game, got about the game, started launching long throws into the box. The fans got interested a little bit more when they'd been absolutely silent in the first half because they couldn't get the ball off Notts. But I just wonder if that is potentially a little bit of wake-up call. Hey, lads, do this right in training this week. Let's get ready. Big game Saturday. We haven't cracked this. We have not got there by any stretch of the imagination. And whether it just refocuses just 1 or 2%, 1 or 2 minds that may have started wandering, thinking we've done this, then it might not be a bad thing.
Leigh, your thoughts?
Yeah, I would agree. I thought Bromley, the game changed for Bromley when he made a good change. I thought Andy Woodman, when he brought on Harry Forster, just somebody a bit more lively, a bit more energetic, a bit more threatening out wide. And he was a real threat when he came on. And I just don't think that Notts really sort of got to grips with him, and he caused real problems. And then, of course, once they got that first goal, they sort of couldn't really sort of regain their composure and their grip of the game. But even that, in saying that, they still had some really good chances. Very wasteful, I thought. There's some really good chances in that game. Ruben Rodrigues in the second half. Obviously, Calvin Miller went close. You had the Carl Wootton shot in the first half where he did everything right but scored. Just clipped the bar. So I still think, whatever happens on Saturday, Notts will create chances, certainly with the way they're playing at the moment, with Calvin, who I think's been absolutely astonishingly good in the last few weeks. The same with Ruben. They've really stepped up to the plate. We've been saying for a few weeks prior to Notts' good form that it needed somebody to come up and share the burden of the goals, and Ruben's done that. And we've got Calvin in there chipping in with the assists, and You know, those two have been absolutely brilliant, and you know, their form going into this game really does bode well. So, like I say, I think it's going to be a really hard fought game, but I just feel with Notts, with the crowd behind them, knowing what's at stake, knowing how driven the players are, certainly those who were here last year who experienced that Wembley final and the heartbreak, and knowing that still haunts them. I think when you put all that together, I think it's going to be, you know, they're going to be right at it, I think, Saturday, right at it. And I think, you know, that first goal, if they can get it early, I think we'll do them the power of good.
No, you've got to get off because you are on the night shift for Reach.
Yes, night owl.
Right. Two questions.
Yes.
We've had a question on it tonight. Kel Roberts.
Yes.
Now, I think someone was saying to me that Kel's mum had posted about either he'd had an op or there was an impending op coming up. And I think there was somewhere on social media from Notts today, Kel wasn't on the team photograph that we finally had taken. We'll call it a playoff team photo. Kel wasn't on the team photo, according to the club, taken this week because he was isolating ahead of an operation. Can you shed any more light on where we are?
Yes. So the last I heard and the last time I spoke was I think he was going to go to Germany. I think that was the plan. There was a plan for him to see a specialist in Germany.
Will they allow him in?
Pardon?
Will they allow him in?
I think so. I think that's why he's obviously isolating. But I think that was the plan. There was a specialist in Germany that he was going to see and try to get to the bottom of the problems. You know, top doc. So that is probably what is going to happen. But yeah, I was aware that he was probably going to have another op. Yeah.
Okay, that's question one.
But he should be. But they're quite confident that it's nothing major. So I would expect him to be back for the start of the season. He says. Good. Famous last words.
Question two. Hartlepool Bromley. How do you see that one going? We're playing on the Saturday. Hartlepool Bromley is the Sunday. What's your thoughts on that one?
I think Hartlepool. Got some really good players. Loved Sterry at right wing back. I think he's a really good player. Reese Oates, the boy Olohon in the middle of the pitch. Featherstone, you know, got some good experience in there as well. Centre halves are decent. They're good at home. It's a difficult place to go. Victoria Park, you know, full to the brim with vociferous Hartlepool fans. I mean, it's a tough enough place to go for Notts at the best of times. So let alone what Bromley are going to find it like, you know, in such a big game. I just think I just don't see them letting that opportunity slip them by. And as good as Bromley are at certain things about the game in terms of getting balls into the box and being tough and being direct, I think defensively you can open them up. You know, Notts opened them up at the weekend. Notts obviously scored against them twice here. I do fancy Hartlepool, especially if Reese Oates is on form. I think he's one of the best forwards in the league. So I see Hartlepool winning that 2-0.
Leigh, thank you very much indeed for your time as always. We will let you file in the stories. I'll
leave you in the hands of the pundit of the year.
Safe hands.
I'm going to let you live this down. I'll bring my own trophy at the weekend.
Just bring that tenner.
Yes.
I won't tell anybody, don't worry.
Yeah, all right, mate. Anyway, good to see you, boys. And
mate.
Let's hope for a win on Saturday.
Take care, Leigh. Okay. Stel, let's just, we were just talking Hartlepool Bromley there with Leigh as pundit of the year. What do you think of that game?
I must admit, I agree with Leigh. I think Hartlepool will be too strong. I think Bromley, you know, despite taking 4 points from Notts in recent weeks, I think they are. You can get at them. You remember the home game? We hit the post, hit the bar as well. You know, we dominated that game, large parts of it, and they caught us again. Our Achilles heel, 2 crosses, 2 balls into the box, and we conceded 2 goals from it. And down there again, played through them in the first half. You know, dominated possession. So I think Hartlepool, who are similar, if they're at it, I think Hartlepool win the game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go against you two on this one. I just see a little bit of kind of I see Neil Warnock-esque qualities in Andy Woodman. You know, gets them up, gets them at it. I just think they might produce a surprise. And Chris B has come on to say extra time was removed for last year's playoffs due to COVID, probably due to player fitness. So that, unless they've changed it back again, that would mean 90 minutes. Clearly, that's a help to the away side. And I have a feeling Bromley might do it on penalties, you know. Bromley on penalties.
Well, it wouldn't be wrong. It wouldn't be the first time I was wrong. It happens fairly regularly, especially when it comes to predictions. I was just cheekily trying to Google when you said 2 questions to Leigh, and the little article that came up didn't mention anything about extra time. So I can't see a reason why there wouldn't be extra time, given that there's a week between each fixture now. I can't see why there wouldn't be, but like you say, if there isn't, there's only really Chesterfield going to benefit from that potentially, but I still see Notts getting it done in 90 minutes. So, you know, arguably we won't need it. But yeah, it would be a strange decision now after 42 games of a season to have a week's rest from the last league game, a week to the next playoff game, to not be able to play extra time would be strange.
Common sense, Del. We're talking National League here.
Yeah.
National League, all right, okay. That goes out.
Should know better.
All right, goes out of the window. Sam Draper, hi all. Watched all the Magpie Circles so far and really enjoyed them. This is the first one I've managed to catch live though, so thought I would leave a comment. Great job, everyone involved. Thank you, Sam. James Tomlinson, come on, you pies. Saturday drummer. No, are you the drummer, James? Bloody hell. Sing your hearts for the lads.
Yeah,
I missed this. NCFC Pie. Thoughts on Wrexham's business post dropping out the playoffs, bringing in Les Reed, new manager to follow. Can't see them not being up there next season with the amount of cash looking to spend. Notts need out ASAP. Sam Draper, agree with Paul. Think Bromley are the dark horse of the playoffs. Wrexham's business, Les Reed. I mean, he's got a pretty good pedigree, hasn't he, Stel?
Oh yeah, he's been around the FA for numerous years and everywhere else, hasn't he? And contacts within the game will be immense. So I think that's the thing, and people have hinted at it there about, you know, you need to get out ASAP. Absolutely right, because you think about, you know, even Saturday's opponents, Chesterfield, you know, went out not many weeks ago and splashed the cash to bring Danny Rowe in. They'd already brought a new manager in during the season, who went and got that Asante. I know he wouldn't have been, you know, from Gloucester. He wouldn't have been on loads of money down there, but they might have had to reward him,
didn't they, as well?
Yeah. So they brought a couple of players in at least on decent money. You can't imagine it's going to stop there. You know, if they get to the play, you know, they're in the playoffs now. If they get a near miss this year, you'd think they might go again in the summer. You've got Stockport in there if they don't get promoted, who, you know, the players that they've signed there, that if they don't get out this year, they're potentially going to go again. So absolutely right. You don't take it as granted. Getting out of this division is the hardest division to get out of, just numerically, because there's only 2 places available, you know, one automatic and then one out of the sort of 16 playoffs. So when you get a chance, absolutely try your best to take control of it and get out, because say this division will only get harder and harder with the more money coming in. And you talk about Wrexham, who knows how much money they've got to spend. We'll have to, I mean, it's yet to be told, isn't it, how much these 2 Hollywood sort of stars, how much they're going to plough into it before they potentially get bored and leave. But, you know, they are going to spend money. They're not going to come in to sit and be missing out on playoffs. So I imagine them to spend money as well. So tough division, very tough division, and that's why we should never take anything for granted.
Yeah, I mean, it's not somewhere I want to take the show at the minute, because for the past 4, 5, 6 weeks, as you would know, our focus has been this group of players can put a run together, right? Most people thought it was impossible. It has been proven right. Other things I've said upset 1 or 2 people. Our best chance of getting out of this division is in the next month. With that, we have a 10 times better chance of getting promoted in the next month than we do in the whole of next season, I think. Because I'm not 100% convinced how well we're playing at the minute will have any bearing on next season. I know people will jump up and down. We won't focus on that debate. You have a look at the top 6 or 7 in the National League season, right? How it ended. You look where they all were last season. Bar us, they were in about the bottom 8. All of them really struggled. So I'm not sure about this 10-15% improvement year on year on year on year. I think you have to judge it to an extent season by season. You know, we beat Barnet in the playoffs semi-final last year. Look where they are now. Barnet, you wouldn't get that. They were in the playoffs last year. But as I said, that's not really a debate I want to go into at the moment, because I think we've got a fantastic chance of getting through this set of playoffs. I think we've got a fantastic chance. I don't think there's a single team that we should be worried about. I'm sure Stockport are saying the same. I'm sure Torquay are saying the same. And I'm sure all the other playoff teams are as well. But echoing your point, I don't think the result at Bromley has done a great deal of damage to our overall run and end to the season. And I'm, like you, hoping that this home advantage with fans in the ground is the 10% that swings it for us on Saturday. Because I do think, I think it's going to be really, really tight, really, really edgy. I just have a sneaking feeling that James Rowe is going to set a game plan up that's going to frustrate us, spoil us. And I just think it's going to be really, really, really wafer thin. And I kind of almost feel more confident if we get through against Chesterfield. I do fancy us down at Torquay in a strange way. I fancy us down there because I think more of the pressure goes on Torquay then. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I hope it's not edgy. I think it'll be edgy for the fans. It'll be edgy for us because of the occasion, and we can do nothing to affect it. But I think the players, with the fans, with the adrenaline that gets going, with the fact that, you know, it's the first playoff game. You're not getting through to Wembley here. This is just a step on the way. I think all that comes together to really focus the mind and say, this is, you know, no disrespect. This is Chesterfield. We can beat these. There's no, you know, there's nothing we should be worried about in these. So let's go out like any other home game and try and set our stall out, get on the front foot as they have done in recent weeks. And Ian Burchnall thing, since he's come in, like I say, him and Neil Ardley both like to play passing football, possession football. But one change I've noticed has been, certainly in recent weeks, free kicks, set pieces, corners, hand on and play. Nearest man, hand on, get the ball back in play rather than stop. Let's all wait. Let's let the opposition get set, because I think they're the sort of teams that Notts have sometimes struggled to try and break down, if you like. Teams that do get 10 men behind the ball and just sit there. But I think if Notts go about it the right way, like, I don't think the defeat at Bromley has derailed the season. I don't think it's calamitous, because I don't think it's going to kill anybody's confidence. It wasn't a disaster or a horror show. So I think they'll be more determined to go, we've had that wake-up call, let's start the game brightly and we could have this won by half-time. Not saying they're going to, but that is the sort of mentality I want to see them employ. I think they will have. Tough game, of course it is. It's going to be a tough game. It's the playoffs. Every player and every team is going to scrap for everything. But I just believe Notts have got the bigger threats. I think they're just slightly better. And I think with the home fans, I think that makes all the difference.
Moddy Moby says we can do it on Saturday. Let's make the lane a fortress again. Also, congratulations, we mentioned it earlier in the programme, to Notts County ladies on getting promoted. Gary says, cannot stop conceding goals from set pieces in these last 3 games. Leigh really regards Bromley about the challenges of this month as opposed to the whole of next season. My view, Paul, this needs to be our month. It's a quicksand league. It's an interesting one. We need to drag ourselves out of it now. James Tomlinson, I love this. Easy win, Chesterfield. Squeeze past Torquay. Just then, Hartlepool at Bristol. God, that'd be a trek for Hartlepool to get down to Bristol. And it's bad enough for us, but hey, there's a bit of water under the bridge, I think, in that respect. I tell you one thing, psychologically, I think it helps. Bromley are what you would only what we would refer to as derogatory, and it's not meant to be, non-league team. Yeah, we are playing the way it stands, unless we get Bromley in the final. We're playing league clubs in these next 2 games on the road to Ashton Gate. Yeah. I think that helps a little bit because subconsciously, Notts County against Bromley, Notts will always be favourites based on heritage, fan base, rather than ability. You know, it was like that against Harrogate, wasn't it? You know, Harrogate actually finished above Notts, but everyone in the professional game, Notts County's bound to do it. You know, when push comes to shove, Wembley experienced players, that'll get you over the line. It didn't. So I think it helps us that we're playing Chesterfield, and then if we beat Chesterfield, Torquay. Any thoughts in terms of the professional psychology and mindset of that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about small margins, but I think there is something in that. But I think it might be slightly differently to what you're maybe thinking. I think from a player's perspective, it won't make a massive, difference. You play the team that are in front of you, and if they're in the playoffs, they're there on merit, so you know they're a decent team. Plus, they've played each other twice throughout the season, so they know a bit about them. I think where it might help Notts is that Notts are always, when you play against, like say, no disrespect to Bromley or Kings Lynn, Maidenhead, anybody like that, everyone just looks at the history of the 2 clubs and goes, well, Notts must batter them because look at the history of the 2 clubs. You haven't got that so much when you play a Torquay or a Chesterfield, So then, therefore, the weight of expectation that can weigh heavy on players is not as big as it would be maybe if this playoff was Solihull Moors, teams like that who hadn't really had that. And we found that last year, Harrogate as well, who earned it, deserved it. They finished second, okay, it was curtailed, but they finished second and then went and won the playoffs. They didn't sulk, they didn't, let it be too much for them. They won the playoffs, so they deserved it. But I think there is no extra weight of expectation. You've always got weight of expectation because we are the biggest team in this division. There's no 2 ways about it. But we're going to be coming up against in this playoffs, hopefully, 3 other teams that will have a reasonable argument to say, well, we're not too far behind because of the league history that they've had. And if that takes a little bit of expectation pressure off players, then that can be a good thing.
Mick Dundee, Notts need to take advantage of early possession they have had in recent games. It's obvious Notts will come out attacking from the start with the likes of Miller attacking down the wing. I think if you're looking at most improved player in recent weeks, clearly there's a case for Adam Chickson because he hadn't been playing. But Miller down the left. It's a completely chalk and cheese scenario, isn't it, to when he first came to the club. And he fulfilled a left wing back role as much, or a left back role as he did pushing forward. He's playing much higher up on the pitch, but he seems to have so much more energy, pace, drive, determination, and causes the opposition so many more problems than he did in a more withdrawn role when he was playing under Neil.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's been phenomenal. He's played the position perfectly. He's been a real threat. And again, those that listen to me and can put up with me and Charlie on the radio, we talk about all season when you play wing backs, the importance, almost like a game of poker. If you play against opposite wing backs, whose wing backs can take the opposition back? So you're doing more attacking. Your wing backs are attacking more than the opposition's wing backs are having to defend your men. And Calvin Miller, with the way he's gone about it, he's very direct, but sometimes basics is the right way to go about it, because sometimes people will give you credit for oh well, it's Notts County, they'll have 25 passes before they get to the halfway line, that sort of thing. They play possession football. But Calvin Miller has given us the option, and he's grasped the bull by the horns, because I think he's took this on. That yes, he's been given the mantra to go and be positive, but the number of times he's made 40, 50 yards, even more, down the left-hand side, just by getting the ball, seeing space in front of him, and running into it with the ball. Now, that's not always the way to go about it. I know fans sometimes want that, because sometimes you run down blind alleys. But what it does do is it sets a tone for the team. The game at home, was it the Weymouth game at home? It might have been the Bromley game, I can't remember. When he did it in the first minute, he made about 60, 70 yards down the left-hand side. And it really does just set the tone for, do you know what? I'm going to grab on that coattails. It's why players always talk about leaders on the pitch and inspirational figures, because you're looking, if he's doing that, crikey, I don't want to be so polar opposite, so I better run around. And when I'm going to do something, and it becomes a contagious atmosphere when you see something positive like that. That I think he's been fantastic, and there's been end product as well. It's not just running 50 yards. Oh, he's give the ball away, but he's ran 50 yards. So credit to him. There's been end product on it, as we saw down at Barnet. He was assisted 3 goals, I think, and since then he's been a real threat. And that is why when you play this back three and your wing backs system, that's what you need. You need your wing backs to be that outlet. That's probably why he tried Enzio as a right wing back, because he wanted Enzio to maybe give Notts exactly the same down the right hand side. And then you think, wow, what a potency, or what a potent weapon we would have then if we had flying wing backs going forward. You watch all the big teams, so when they do it, fullbacks and wing backs nowadays, they have to cover so much ground, it's untrue. And they have to play as wingers and then have to get back and do a shift defensively. I think for Notts, Calvin Miller has played the position about as well as you're going to see it at this level.
I'll tell you one thing I have liked since Ian's come in to the club. There is more of a balance to the team. And by balance, left-footed players playing down the left. We've had inverted fullbacks with Dion Kelly. He does a great job, but he's still right-footed. Mm-hmm. So, we have in Adam Chickson a left-sided of a 3 with a left foot. So it makes it that much easier to deliver that ball out there, doesn't it? With Gareth playing left side up, so when he gets into the further up the field, it's a natural angle for him to cross a good ball rather than checking back. And I think with Neil, that wasn't always the case when you looked how we lined up on the flanks. We seem to have as many right-sided players on the left as we did on the right.
Yeah. Balance is key in football. Round pegs, round holes. It's what you want as well. And another thing that people don't always take, when you play the 3 centre halves, you're left-sided. Talking Adam Chickson now, left-footed, left-sided centre half of a 3. Yeah, like you say, it's easy for him to open up and give the ball out to Calvin Miller, or look into the strikers, or look into midfield, because it's on his outside foot. When the other team's attacking and defenders should be showing them down the line, potentially, it's on his left foot to make a tackle. So that's the way they want to show it. The alternative is you then show them inside. So arguably on your weaker foot, but that's where the bodies are. So you should have a teammate inside you helping you out. So that balance is, look, it's a minor thing, but if you could ask a manager, they'd always have a left-footed centre half and a right-footed centre half playing left and right, whether that's in a 4, whether that's in a 5, or a 3, whichever you want to call it. But it's one of them things in football that managers don't always have the luxury of being able to choose. And again, credit to Ian Burchnall for bringing Adam Chickson in, finding a position for him, and credit to Adam Chickson for picking up the baton, if you like, and playing the role well.
NCFC Pie, it's a nice one. I know he will be very humble, but can you take a minute to thank Stell and Charlie for their commentary this season? Such high quality, interesting and enjoyable commentary compared to any other. I'm not a local Nottingham supporter. Over the years have listened to many a game and always feel part of the game, even if not there. So thanks, Stell, Leigh Brearley. I thank them with you. Well said, mate. They make match day. There you go.
Well, thank you very much. But I'll pass on to Charlie. He's the professional. I'm just the muppet who sits there and rattles about football. So mine's the easy bit. He has to commentate. So much it is appreciated, things like that, because I hope people do enjoy it. Like I say, it's been rubbish, fans not being able to go there to the games, and I know some people will still listen to the radio anyway, not be able to get to games, but it's always better with fans in there watching the game. But glad there's one or two listening, and we're not putting them to sleep.
And there's a lot. Listen, Mark, and I've said this to you both before. It is not an easy job on local radio when you are commentating on the same team. Clearly, you want them to do well, but you don't want to be some form of cheerleader, because you lose respect among the fan base. We as Notts fans know when we're not playing very well. But I think you tread that line extremely well, better than some other clubs, I would say, that are commented upon in the East Midlands. I think it's very objective. It's very fair, and a lot of people listen to you. And in a funny way, a lot more have listened to you this year because none of us have been at the ground. But we'll be able to do our bit on Saturday. You'll be down there. Is it an extra early start for you on Saturday, getting down there? Are you doing anything for the club as well, or is you just going to focus on BBC Radio?
No, because there's no stream, is there, Saturday, because it's on TV.
BT, yeah.
So I mean, because of COVID, it's not a bit 4 o'clock start, so it's a little bit later start than normal, obviously, or 4 o'clock kickoff. So it's not a particularly early start. We've got a little bit of extra time there. There's no pre-match stream, so it'll be the usual pre-match build-up. I'm sure on the radio, and trying to get sample the atmosphere, because that was the best thing about the Weymouth game, was the fact that not just fans in there. Fans were obviously chomping at the bit to get it. The ground was, well, say 2/3 full, but it was 2/3 of the people that were going to get there were probably there about an hour at least before kickoff, which you don't normally get. And it's just like the shackles have come off. Fans being allowed back, they can come in, and it was brilliant just to be there. Like I say, we've been privileged all the way through to be able to go to these games. Well, okay, someone watched on the stream, not so privileged. That's why we've got to beat Torquay, by the way, in the next round. But yeah, privileged to be in the ground to watch it when we know everybody who, love the club, bleed for the club, can't get there. So to see them back, and to see them back so early, and, just great, really was. Hairs on the back of your neck. Honestly, it really was. And it's a phrase that people sometimes throw around, but it really was. Me and Charlie, oh, right, yeah, but we're not getting the tingle here. It really was amazing. And I'm expecting exactly the same, if not even more, not in terms of numbers necessarily, but in terms of atmosphere and what's on it this Saturday. Playoff game, win or go home. So it's just a great place, Meadow Lane, and it's just a great place. And it's just been an echo chamber with just me, Charlie, and a few of the media and people there. It needs the fans there to give it some soul, give it some life.
Just before we wrap up, I've got the shirt on. There's the badges. You can probably see them. 30 years ago to the day, believe it or not. 30 years ago to the day. Notts County 3, Brighton 1. Obviously, I was at Wembley. Great days. What were you doing on this day, or to the nearest year will do?
Yeah.
What were you up to 30 years ago when Notts were beating Brighton 3-1 to book their place in the top flight of English football?
What about on this day? But I'd have been leaving school. I'd have been picking up my exam results, and be about, we begin in June. I'd probably start pre-season at Derby. Yeah, so it was me first left school and straight into Derby. Yes.
So you would have gone to like the academy or scholar or whatever they were called in those days, yeah?
Yeah, well, YTs, weren't we? Youth team, what they call YTS, youth training schemes, weren't they? Back then, yeah, only £28.50 a week.
Have you taken a pay cut at Radio Nottingham these days?
Absolutely, you're dead right, I have, yeah. That's why I call it a YT boy. But yeah, 30 years. Well, obviously, people are saying now I probably started when I was 5, did I? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it seems a lifetime ago. But yeah, I remember the playoffs, watching them. Was it Tommy got 2 that day?
He did.
Yeah.
Brighton, one of the worst kits in the world. Do you remember that sort of like red, white, flecky thing?
Yeah.
Derek Davis won the toss for us to play in black and white stripes, because obviously Brighton were blue and white. Yeah.
He used his double-headed pound coin, did he, back then?
And when he lost the toss against Tranmere, this is a true story, lost the toss previous year against Tranmere. So Tranmere all in white. And so the league were going to make us change. And then I don't know what Derek did, but he had a word with the Football League. And the Football League, with us having lost the toss, then got special dispensation for us to wear black and white stripes. So I don't know how he managed that. Because if they were prepared for that, why on earth did they have a toss-up in the first place?
Well, exactly. Yeah, friends in high places, that isn't it, I think, after the event. But, yeah, there's some strange things go on. But, yeah, 30 years ago. So hopefully that's some sort of omen. You know, this is a third playoff campaign in 4 years, or 4 seasons, isn't it, for Notts? So, you know, let's hope it ends as successful as that did.
Mark, thank you once again for your time. Great to have you on. As you know, very deserved pundit of the year. Leigh's not listening now. He's working at Reach PLC. No. Everyone speaks very highly of you. Thank you for donating your time to us. We hope the road to Ashton Gate continues next week. You go in for a Notts win against Chesterfield. You go in for a Hartlepool win against Bromley as the double header this week.
Yeah, that's it. And as you've seen, my predictions are very fallible, so don't anybody put any money on it, that's for sure.
You and I both had us down to finish 5th. And we did 6 or 7 games ago. I think we had us down for 71, didn't we? I think we ended up with 69. So
yeah, well, like I say, I fancied us. I think we've finished where you finish after 42 games where you should finish, but you know, the job isn't done. That's what they can't think, that getting in the playoffs, that's not good enough. That's not the aim for Notts. The aim is back in the Football League, and I think they've got every chance of doing it. I'm like you. I think they need to do it sooner rather than later, but there's no reason. You look at any of them teams in the playoffs, there's no reason they can't do it.
On that positive note, Mark, thank you very much indeed. And we'll all give you a wave on Saturday, 4 o'clock kickoff, remember.